What's our purpose? How much of a mark can we make?
I want to begin by saying thank you to the Lutzie family for giving me and many others this amazing opportunity. This program gives people hope for a bigger and brighter future than what we had imagined.
How might we reshape tragedy and mold it into legacy? It starts with how we live as family.
So Philip just starts playing a bunch of sports. I was able to coach him in youth football through about 5th grade and then let other coaches coach him, and he excelled at it. And I remember vividly Philip coming back to me and saying, "Dad, this is a piece of cake. I'm going to play at the highest level." And he started getting recruiting his junior year and verbally committed to Auburn. He simply fell in love with Auburn, and it took us on this journey.
So I'm from Auburn, Alabama, and I've lived here my whole life. It's a very family-oriented town, lots of things to do here. Everybody goes tailgating, everybody goes to football games, and when Auburn wins, rolling the trees was such a fun thing. When I was in 3rd grade, I started playing my sports, and I started with basketball and softball. My parents came to all my games, came to everything I did. Never saw anything bad happening to us, just a loving family.
Winning games, making plays, but he did more. He made a difference. In the memories we carry, in the moments we cherish, and in the challenges we face together.
Everything's going great, and Philip had won a national championship, and then right at that timeline, our first family really issue was my mom was diagnosed with cancer, melanoma, and unfortunately Philip's senior year, 2 years later, she passed away. And that was the first kind of big hit our family took, but you put it in perspective. My mom was 72. That's a young age, but she lived a long life. Philip ends up chasing his dream with the NFL, not making the NFL. That was a little bit of a blip, but nothing in the big picture of life. And then we get to the point where, June 29th of 14 comes around. It changed our life forever.
One day when I was in 5th grade, I came home and was sitting there, and my dad came downstairs and just kind of told us, he was leaving and that it was, they were just going to get a divorce. And it's kind of one of those things that shocked me, and I was like, okay, everything's going to work itself out though. So we lived, just me, my mom, and my sister, in our house for about a year. And then on March 1st, my mom got a phone call that our house had burnt down. And that was like, it kind of wrecked my whole world, because it was like, wow, now that my family's gone, my house is gone too, the house I had lived in for 12 plus years.
In the morning, you go to a church service, and you're greeted at home by a sticky note on your front door to call a phone number. And that Sunday morning, June 29th, we learned that Philip was killed in an automobile accident. So, it's the worst day of any parent's life to lose a child, and certainly thought it would never happen to our family, never thought it would happen to somebody with Philip, who usually made good decisions, but it changed our life.
Dad had a doctor's appointment, and he came home the next day, and I was like, what's going on? And he was like, I have stage 3 head and neck cancer. And so at this point, I was just in complete distraught. I was like, what more could possibly go wrong? And it was really hard to just take care of him and play my sports, keep up with school. And there was a lot of times where I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so about a couple of months later, he went to the doctor and ended up having Parkinson's. That was extremely hard to deal with, because on top of his cancer, he was dealing with not being able to do a lot of things that he normally could do. I had to step in the picture a lot more, and I went a whole entire year of just kind of backing off from how I had normally been, because I was so mad. I was like, why in the world is this happening to me? And my world was just tumbling down, and there was nothing I could do to stop it.
In this darkness, we seek determination to find lessons even from loss.
And I never, through this whole journey, have I really questioned God why this has happened. I've certainly questioned why at this age did you take Philip? What's the purpose? What's the meaning? Because I believe God's got a will for all of us. And God said to me, start thinking of words that describe who Philip is. I started to write these words. I think we should do a curriculum. We should do some type of learning tool for kids to help them make better decisions.
I was sitting in my class junior year. Our teacher was like, let's go through the Lutzie program. And so we started it, and then the first lesson I wrote was patience. And I was like, wow, I have not been doing this. And so I read through the lesson, and it kind of made me look on my life, have I been patient? And I looked back and I was like, no. Times when my dad would be needing my help, and I have not been patient at all.
So the curriculum's out there, but the real proud thing for me is the scholarship program. And when you can sit and have kids go through the curriculum with their mentors and then sit down afterwards and talk about how the curriculum has made them think, that's the win.
The Lutzie 43 Foundation distributes character-based curriculum and awards scholarships so others may live, love, and learn, as Philip did.
I applied, so I was sitting in my history class one day, and my ACT prep teacher, Miss Billman, knocked on the door, and she was like, I need to see KK. So I walked out there, and she's like, you won. And I was like, wait, what? Honestly, like, was so honored and so blessed, and like, just couldn't believe it. It was one of the best days of my life.
I would encourage any student that's gone through this curriculum, if you're thinking that you're not a candidate, if you're thinking you don't want to go to college, apply for the scholarship.
It's definitely changed my life, and I really hope it continues to change other people's lives, because there's millions of people out there who are living the same way that I was and just saying like there's no hope for me or my life, but this curriculum definitely opened my eyes and was like there is hope, there is a way, and it can happen to anybody.
To find a purpose, to make a difference, to change a life. This is the mission of the Lutzie 43 Foundation, building character, inspiring students, changing lives.